Vikings fans, you are listening to the Purple People podcast. It's heating up outside, but it's nice and cool in here because we are going to talk Vikings football. I am Kyle West. We got Adam Carlson.
Yo.
We got Kyle Smith.
What's up, everybody?
Gentlemen, are you guys ready?
It is always cool to talk Vikings football.
You betcha.
That's for sure. Temperatures may be heating up outside, but Minnesota Vikings football will always be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to welcome everyone to episode number 155 of the Purple Podcast. This one is titled It's Patterson. Now, I know that I've been kind of giving you guys some dated references, but you guys do know it's Pat, right?
Yes. I picked up on that right away.
Okay, because it may not be one of the more popular Saturday Night Live movies, but it sure is one of the more memorable ones.
I hated it.
But you'll never forget it, will you?
And that is very true.
Alright, so let's go into the quick hits and just start rattling these puppies off. We got some pictures of the new stadium, and the roof is getting on there. The folks over at AccuCheck, the weather website, they were talking about how the roof is built to sustain some of the worst winters, absorb a lot of the water, be able to melt a lot of the ice off the roof, and just handle the winter, which is something that's absolutely amazing. We knew a little bit of this information last year when they were talking about the design of the place, but now we've gotten so many more specifics about how it's going to be done that it's really cool to read about it. And I suggest you check it out over on their website if you get a chance.
Mm-hmm. I am pretty sure the Vikings won't admit it, but I think that Tony Stark designed this new building from all the high-tech stuff that's gone into it.
I'm guessing him and Batman would probably have to go together to build this thing because, man, it's a pricey building.
Nah, see, Batman don't actually do anything.
But he's got money.
Well, yeah.
Money makes the world go around. And they're both just a dude in a suit anyway, so what's the point?
Deadpool.
Like the Easter Bunny at the Menlo Park Mall. Just a guy in a
We've been on the show for 3 minutes and we pissed off half the listeners.
Hey, that's what we do sometimes, right? It's the off-season.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
One of the cooler things that I found this week that didn't get much attention was that 9 Minnesota Vikings players who remained anonymous attended Take a Kid Fishing Day down in Le Sueur, Minnesota. What they did was they brought in about 50 kids. Each kid was given a fishing rod, and they had a cookout, gave out autographed footballs, taught the kids how to fish on the lake. It was a fantastic event, and one of those things that really reminds you that these players are real people with real cares that are willing to donate their time to real people for the future, which is so cool.
I bet you Teddy was one of those players.
I have no way of knowing. I'd love to know.
Mm-hmm.
If I were assuming, I'd say Brian Robinson and 8 others because it's fishing.
Yeah, definitely B-Rob. You know, he probably went fishing. It's really cool. The team does this. The team does so many good things, and they only ever focus on the negative stuff. We say that all the time, I know, but...
But we got quite a bit of positive stuff to talk about this week.
Mm-hmm.
Because earlier we talked about the Vikings going to Falcon Heights Elementary and attempting a playground build that got rained out, and they ended up heading into the school, visiting with the kids. But the Vikings went back and they finished that playground build.
Of course.
So the kids at Falcon Heights Elementary, they got themselves a nice new place to play, and they got to spend a day with Vikings players. That's a win-win situation right there.
It was pretty sweet. All the players were inside helping with the kids, and Babatunde was outside building it. It took literally 6 minutes. Good stuff.
He didn't need screws or hammers or nothing.
You know what? He would probably have been confused with the metric system conversion.
That's true.
You know that?
Man, I'd love to hear some jokes
true.
that go on with that guy in the locker room.
One more thing that really struck me as being awesome. Former Vikings running back Robert Smith was spearheading an app called the Fan Health Network. What this is, it promotes fitness and healthy eating, but the app does something really interesting. You can go on there, and you can follow these team leaders, players like Randy Moss and Robert Smith himself, along with icons from other sports organizations, teams, announcers, and just there's so many people that can help you out. They've got exercise routines you can do. They have an awesome system set up there on the Fan Health Network. I downloaded the app, and I find it to be absolutely amazing. So if you get a chance, go check out the Fan Health Network. It is available on Apple and Android, so There's no excuse not to check it out because I know everyone's got one of those smartphones these days.
Big fan of Robert Smith as well, too. Remember a couple shows back we were talking about Chuck Foreman going into the Hall of Fame? Well, you know what? Robert Smith is another one of those guys that his career was just too short. He retired when he wanted to retire to do what he wanted to do, and he's probably never going to make it into the Hall of Fame, but he's a guy that, I feel like you could make at least a little bit of a case for, that.
Even though his contributions on the field didn't total out as far as some of the other players have, his contributions off the field and what he accomplished when he was on the field are two just absolutely amazing things. And I really commend Robert Smith for all of that.
Remember, Adam, when Robert Smith retired, he was the Minnesota Vikings' all-time leading rusher.
That's right.
So that tells you what you need to know about him. An excellent, fantastic player for the Vikings.
So true. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to end on some more positive notes, so let's throw a negative one out there. Well, a sad one anyway, maybe not negative, but former Vikings wide receiver Greg Childs has been playing in the CFL. He's been working with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and he had another big setback when he tore his Achilles tendon. We always wish Greg Childs the best. Ever since he was drafted by the Vikings, we saw nothing but potential in this guy, and he is struggling to stay healthy, but we know that when he does be able to be healthy, he's one of those players that can make an impact. So get healthy, Greg Childs, come back and start dominating there in Winnipeg. Have that nice tradition of Bud Grant up there, do them proud, just kick some butt.
Yeah, we all had such high hopes for Greg being just that down-the-field vertical threat for the Vikings, and you could see the potential in him when I watched him practice, and it's just such a shame that, man, he got hurt with that freakish injury that happened at training camp. He works his way back, and then he goes to the CFL. He's going to try to prove it that he can get healthy, he can still produce, and he gets hurt with another freak injury, and man, you got to wonder what the future holds for him in football.
Both knees and an Achilles, that hurts.
That's a lot of stuff to get messed up, man.
Really
it's really sad, just like you said, to piggyback on it. When we drafted him, we all had the high hopes, because correct me if I'm wrong, it was him and Jarius Wright that were drafted together.
Yeah, they were our Razorbacks.
Right. I saw it in my head when that played out. You had two little speedsters running around. What you imagine having a team with some Danny Amendola types and some Wes Welker types. What we could have on this team, the Percy Harvins that we used to have, and I want to give a shout out to him for always pursuing his dream. A lot of guys don't like to step back to go to the CFL, especially when you've already been drafted in the NFL. But you know what? Just keep fighting. He was a great guy when he was with us. So hope to see you on your way, and hope you recover well, Greg.
Absolutely. In a little bit happier news, Trey Waynes, the Vikings' first-round draft pick this year, is going to head down and work out with cornerback from Arizona, Patrick Peterson, prior to the preseason. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to allow Trey Waynes to have a little bit more insight into what he can get away with at the pro level, what the top cornerbacks are doing, because Patrick Peterson is one of those players that he almost transcends the position. He contributes on special teams, on defense. He's even been in on offense to make some plays. Patrick Peterson is one of the guys that you absolutely want Trey Waynes to work with and to try to figure things out alongside. I'm already been excited about Trey Waynes because I feel like a lot of the negative criticism on him was a bit too much.
Yeah.
And I really do feel that he has the potential to really stand out. And working with a guy like Patrick Peterson might be able to speed up that process to allow him to be on the field and play at a higher level rather than having to wait so long to have things come to him the way things did for a player like Xavier Rhodes.
Well, Xavier's problem was Leslie Frazier.
I'm not going to say that.
I'll say it. I'll fire some shots. So Trey Waynes is already off to a fantastic head start just by having Mike Zimmer in his corner. I'll fire another shot. I'm glad he's working with Patrick Peterson. That's a guy that he should be working out with. I'd rather have him with Patrick Peterson than Darrelle Revis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really would. So good for Trey Waynes. Good to see that he's got the motivation to, I'm assuming, go out there and do this on his own and want to get going and be a damn good corner for the Vikings.
What's even cooler about this is how much Trey Waynes looks up to Patrick Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
I've read on several accounts about how when Patrick Peterson first followed Trey Waynes on Twitter, that Trey Waynes just like freaked out like a schoolgirl that just bought a One Direction album, you know? Which is fantastic. It's cool to see that kind of admiration in the NFL. And to be able to work out alongside someone that means that much to you is amazing.
And that'd be
So congratulations to Trey Waynes for being able to do this. And a huge thanks goes out to Patrick Peterson for taking the time to work with a youngster like Trey Waynes.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Now, we did jump the gun a little bit on the Purple People podcast page.
Uh-oh.
We started a 100-day countdown like we always do. Sadly, we started the 100-day countdown when there were 102 days to go.
Oh, Jesus, Adam, you're fired.
I know, right? I'm out the door. So today we're recording this on the 8th, going into the 9th. So Tuesday it'll be picking back up. We'll start off, and hopefully we'll be back on track for the countdown. I love the countdown because I love seeing all the new players and their jersey numbers, learning some of the rookies and undrafted free agents. Sadly, as we get closer to the countdown being in the single digits, a lot of the players that we could learn have moved on from the team, have been released or moved to the practice squad or just playing at work camp casualties, stuff like that. So we end up doing a lot of players that are prominent figures in Vikings history, or sometimes I'll even just post a cat in a Vikings jersey or something like that. I don't know.
It's fun. No, you're right, Adam, because it's fun because you get some of the historical numbers that are retired for the team that can only ever be to one player, from now until the end of time.
Right.
Fran Tarkenton owns number 10 for the Minnesota Vikings.
Absolutely.
Or Corey Stringer. It's fun to do that. And like I said, I always look forward to when you do the countdown, too, because it is a good way to learn jersey numbers for players, new players on the team. All these guys that are in here in camp and whatever, and it is a fun way to get to know them.
Yeah, who did we just start with? We just started with Danielle Hunter. I think he was the one who kicked it off for us, correct?
He was number 99, yeah.
See, I learned something too. That's good. I didn't know that was his number. But yeah, I just want to let everybody know, as old as this makes me sound, like my mom and my dad, 100 days away, this is going to fly by. Before you know it, we're going to be at the Hall of Fame game, and preseason's already going to be here.
Oh, yeah. And it is nice to have that kickoff on Monday Night Football. We're going to get a little taste of football with all the other teams starting off on the Sunday. Mm-hmm. Then Monday we'll get the main course, the Minnesota Vikings and the 49ers. So that's an exciting one. I love the countdown, and I'm excited that we're less than 100 days away now.
Okay, Adam. I'm going to put you to the test really quick before we move on. Name another player in Vikings history who wore number 99.
Christian Ballard.
Christian Ballard. I was going to say Chris Hovan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There we go. There's a couple more 99s for you guys out there.
That'd have been a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I went as recent as I could with that one.
Yeah.
Sadly, I do know stuff like that. I don't know why, but I do. It stays in here. Probably from doing all these countdowns.
It floats around up there, right?
It sure does. All right, let's get into our main topic. Now, I like Cordarrelle Patterson. He shows a lot of talent. He really does. Dynamic player. Interesting to watch. When you get the ball in his hand, anything can happen. But last year was a bit of a downsider in him. He struggled with injuries throughout the whole season. Now we're looking at special teams. Coach Mike Prefer thinks that Cordarrelle Patterson is the best kick returner in the NFL, but he says that there were still things that Cordarrelle Patterson was doing that he doesn't like, and that he wants to bring in some competition for him in camp and preseason. Now, I was under the impression, and am still under the impression, despite this statement, that the kickoff return job is essentially Cordarrelle Patterson's. I don't see someone coming in and taking that away. However, I do see that the punt return job is completely up in the air. That's the way I currently see it. How do you guys see it, and how do you take this statement from Mike Prefer?
I'll tackle that one first. I think it's just another stepping stone to motivate Cordero. He's one of those people coming into last season that he was on the the NFL countdown saying, "Oh, they're poised for a breakout season," and now a year
Oh,
later
yeah.
they're like, "Oh, hey,
Prove
he's
it.
got a boom or bust. He's gonna lose his job." I don't buy into all that stuff. You don't get drafted in the first round most of the time to get dumped a season or two later. Um, I think it's just going to motivate Cordero to get better. I'm glad that we haven't heard from him as much as we used to. It's not saying I didn't enjoy the time that you get on social media and show us what he does with his life, but I think he's taken his job and his position more seriously, not only as a wide receiver but as a returner. So, and I think Prefer had to say that. I don't think you guarantee anybody a spot, albeit injuries, or let's say a guy like Stephon Diggs comes in and he just blows him out of the water, and then you kind of have to eat your own words. I think he was just kind of doing the generic thing that coaches have to say. But as far as what you said, Adam, I couldn't agree more. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that he'll be sitting in the end zone waiting to take kickoffs, and a lot of those are going to be touchbacks and everything else. Nobody's going to kick it to him.
It's the wording that Prefer used that made me feel weird, though. He didn't say utilize the competition that we had. He said bring in competition. So it makes me wonder if there aren't guys that he's got an eye on out there that if for some reason Patterson doesn't impress him, that he'll be looking at the free agent wire and saying, okay, let's give this guy a try. But I don't see that happening either, especially when you've got someone like Stephon Diggs waiting in the wings who showed that at the college level he could be a very serviceable, if not good, return man.
I'm not sure. I couldn't unless if you're going to bring someone in, you can look at it from two things. And if I'm wrong here, please jump in because I could be. But usually you can take a wideout, maybe a running back as your kick returner. I don't think if you're that explosive as a kick returner to be brought in, you're just going to be on special teams. At some point, they're going to do trick plays like we used to do with Cordarrelle when he had little knowledge of running routes and just wanted to use his raw explosiveness. So that when you say it like that, yeah, it does raise some question marks. But the question would be to who? Who's out there? Because I know we're not going to go trading for anyone. So that is kind of odd.
Yeah, the days of specialists at kick returners is essentially over. Teams that were like when the Bears only had Hester on for returns. They realized that they can't just have one spot for that. And Atlanta has sort of been able to include him in their offense and have him be a bigger piece of that puzzle. And things seem to be working out better for that. Mm-hmm. The days of just having one player, one job is over. You even see it with the punter. Jeff Locke, he's punting, he's holding. And that's the way that the NFL is. They're looking for multi-purpose people being able to play multiple spots.
Take it like just off topic a little bit. You see our ex-Viking player that everybody probably still loves, Jared Allen. They're talking about moving him to linebacker position in Chicago. The game is evolving so much in every aspect that they're going to need players to be more versatile, and that's the best part about it. Makes for everyone's talents to go even further, but I don't know. I think we see 84 locking in that job. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, side rant, first of all. What you were saying, Adam, about specialists in the NFL, that is why I think they really need to have it to where you can dress all 53 players on game day instead of having however many it is. What
I don't understand 40, inactives. I still don't get it.
Yeah, inactives. I understand inactives if you have a time machine and you travel back to 1943. I understand inactives. In 2015, I do not. I think that is a really silly, stupid rule that needs to go away. Secondly, I love me some Devin Hester, by the way.
Oh, sure.
And a fantastic return man in the NFL. So I disagree with Mike Prefer when he says that Cordarrelle Patterson is the best kick returner in the NFL. Is still Devin Hester. Like, he still has that title. He is the guy. I don't know. I don't necessarily... I have a lot of respect for Mike Prefer. I think he is a darn good special teams coach. There's a reason why he was a holdover from the Leslie Frazier administration to the Mike Zimmer administration.
The only major coach to stay.
Precisely. I think this comment, though, was stupid. I mean, really, we all know that Patterson, he didn't have the season that he needed to have. But I don't think you have competition at every position on the field. That's the point of the off season. So he's making a comment that isn't really a comment. Like, duh, we know that you want to have competition for the kick return spot. Okay.
But the way he worded it was the problem.
Yeah, about bringing in, and I don't read into that as much as you guys. I think that was more of just a statement that he made, and not necessarily that he has people. I'm sure that he's a good coach. He always got people in mind that you want to bring in.
You have a short list of just in case. You do.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily think that he meant, we're going to be bringing in competition for Cordarrelle Patterson. I think it was more of just how he worded it off the top of his head, it kind of sounded more that way than what I think the Vikings actually are. Because
and that's exactly why I picked this statement.
Yeah.
Is because I wanted to show how a statement like this can be turned and twisted based on the words that are said.
And I think it is being turned and twisted more.
Because I think that what he intended to say is, Cordarrelle Patterson is currently our kick returner. We've got him penciled in. But he did some things last year. He had some fumbles. He struggled through injuries. And we want to make sure that we can have the best possible situation back there. So we are going to have a bit of a competition going on.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like you said, he could say, hey, we're going to bring in some competition for Cordarrelle. That could mean, and it probably does mean, guys that are on the team. Like, you're bringing in competition from within the team. That doesn't mean we're going to trade for Devin Hester all of a sudden. Which would be kind of cool. I would be for that.
But if you look into the statement, the way it's read, it sure does sound that way, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It does.
But I do feel that Cordarrelle Patterson will be the kick returner come regular season. And I do think that he'll be able to do an excellent job if he's healed up. And from what I understand, his conditioning and his training this offseason has him in some of the best shape he's ever been in his life.
Now, you asked about the punt return position, right, Adam?
I mentioned it, yeah.
That is not going to be Marcus Sherrills. That's my statement for the week. I don't think Marcus Sherrills makes this team in 2015.
Sherrills competing with Thielen and Diggs is going to be so fun to watch for that punt return spot.
Yeah, and like I said, I talked about this before. Trey Waynes definitely makes him expendable in the corner position, and I think Stephon Diggs probably makes him expendable in the punt return position. And so, you're a good player. Thank you for your time. I'm sure Leslie Frazier will take you in Tampa Bay.
Oh, Leslie. All right, so with that Cordarrelle Patterson talk done, let's go to the social media question, which I absolutely loved this week.
This is a good one.
This one was a Kyle Smith question that we got a nice response to on Facebook. Kyle Smith asked, what is the most important home game for the Minnesota Vikings during the 2015 season and why? We got some fun answers, especially over on Facebook. We had Zachary Murphy, who said that he would choose the Chargers only because it's week 3, and he believes that the Vikings can beat both the 49ers and the Lions, and that the Chargers will be the first real underdog game. If the Vikings can win that game to make it 3-0 or even 2-1, the team can have some momentum and recognition heading into the season. But the most predominant answer that we got on social media was the obvious one, the Green Bay Packers.
You knew it was coming.
Fans really say the Packers every year. The Packers are the team to beat in the division. The Vikings close out against Green Bay. It's just a lot of answers for Green Bay. Division games from Austin Schultz says, division games, more importantly the Packers, got to beat them dang Packers at home. Douglas Freshley also mentions that Seattle will be an important game. And Seattle will be a huge test because not only do they have that amazing defense, now they've got more weapons on offense, including Jimmy Graham, and covering a tall athletic player in the slot like Jimmy Graham is going to be rough.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got a good one. I got a good one from Twitter. This came from at MC on a bike. I like that Twitter handle. He says, I like the Rams in Week 9. Underrated team with a great defense. And I hope Kyle's prediction happens. Cash in on AP in 2016.
Oh.
Awesome. See, I told you guys.
It really proves that we got a person listening and paying attention there.
You betcha. It really does.
Uh,
I'm telling you.
So good.
Let's get that trending on Twitter. Hashtag cash in on AP.
This one's kind of a long one, but he made such a great point I can't help but read it. Stephen Bjorn says the Lions. The way they punished Teddy in the first game last year with that defense, that would kill our momentum going into Green Bay. I'd never pass over a division game. They're always 50-50, but the Bears, I believe, wouldn't give us the kind of we can make it to the playoffs kind of win. The Lions at home builds our young guys' confidence early against our division. I think our D will be solid all year, so a solid offensive performance from Teddy and AP against the Lions D would make me a believer. He's absolutely right. Against the Lions, Teddy Bridgewater was absolutely horrible last year. The two games that we saw Bridgewater just come out and absolutely struggle were both against Detroit. And that wicked front where he had almost no time. But then again, we did have the beat-up offensive line from Minnesota and a lot of other things going on. It'll be interesting to see how the Vikings can respond to that sort of a beatdown last year this season.
Who gave us that answer, Adam?
Stephen Bjorn.
That was a really good response. Thank you for your comment on that one.
And over on thevikingage.com, where I post each and every podcast, we had Turd Ferguson, who thinks kind of like me in a way. He says, my pick for which game? Week 2 preseason against the Raiders. We'll have our first Ponder sighting, not in purple. It'll be a glorious thing to see. Glorious because he's no longer a Viking. Don't get me wrong, I drank the Ponderade while he wore the purple. You can find proof of me hyping him up, but now that he's no longer a Viking, it'll be nice to see our D tear him up.
As a fun comment.
Turd Ferguson, you're a genius. Also, fun fact for that game, Amari Cooper, Trey Waynes matchup.
Now, I'm going to give my answer for this one because it's another one that's a little different. I liked his answer of the Raiders in the preseason, but the Raiders regular season game, November 15th, is going to be a big one because it'll show how much the Minnesota Vikings can evolve and game plan because the Minnesota plays the Raiders in the preseason, but they also play them this year in the regular season. To be able to see if Minnesota can take what they learned during the preseason and adjust their team to the regular season is something that we've never seen with a lot of the previous Vikings coaching staffs and things like that.
That's putting it politely.
So being able to see that is what I'm really looking forward to. What do you guys got?
I don't think we'll see AP in any of the preseason games. So Oakland, enjoy it if you win the preseason game, which you probably won't. Because when Adrian hits the field, you're going to cry yourself to sleep that night. That's what I got.
Ouch.
I disagree with you on that one. I think we will see Adrian a smidge in preseason just because he has not played in so long. They want to make sure that he's comfortable and he's got that rust kicked off the tires.
Fair enough. I could see that.
All right, so which home game are you guys looking forward to then?
Well, Firefox really hates me pulling up Vikings.com, so give me a moment to get the schedule here.
I'll take that one off your hands. I want to say thanks, first off, Adam, thanks for the love on the social media question. Don't know where I pulled that one out of, but all the people that responded for that, thank you. My intent was, hey, this is our last season outdoors before our big fancy new stadium. What game would you like to see the most? Obviously, division games are important. Obviously, Green Bay is the one that everybody thinks about. Sidebar on that. Last time we played Green Bay at the end of the season, we went to the playoffs. Knock on wood. Maybe it'll happen again. I want to see us play Seattle. I know I mentioned the Chargers game last week. I made this statement earlier in the year, and I truly stick by it and believe it. If everyone's healthy, we can beat Seattle. They're not the same team on the road. Yes, they have a shiny new toy in Jimmy Graham. We have AP back. And despite the fact the last time that we played them, they beat us down pretty good, AP still went monstrous in that game. And I think with Teddy and our new receiving core and our revamped defense, thanks to Mike Zimmer, I think we give them a fighting chance. Might even squeak a win out.
Very nice. Have you had a chance to take a look over the schedule there, Mr. West?
I'm looking at it, and I'm going go sentimental reasons here. Let's say the Chicago game, because this could potentially be Jared Allen's last season, maybe ever in the NFL. Maybe he retires after this season, so that could be your last chance. Jared Allen comes back home to Minnesota, so you get to see him play. Sure, he'll be playing for Chicago, but
Oh, yeah.
always fun to see a former player return, especially one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, yeah. That turd's loving to see Christian Ponder.
Yeah, you
Good old
betcha.
turd.
Yeah, Ponder gets to come home, too. And LaTroy Guion.
Yeah, we got lots of Vikings players coming home this year.
We're not the only ones that double dip. I hate hearing about that.
It'll be interesting to see, like you said, Mr. Smith. Chicago has a different defense where Jared Allen has to play a different position than what he's ever played. And he's supposed to be back healthy this year. I'm curious. I'm really legitimately curious to see what Jared Allen is going to do for Chicago this season.
That'd be interesting. You know, it's not the first time he played linebacker. If any of you guys want to look up the Jackass movies, he did play a mean linebacker in there against Johnny Knoxville. It's pretty awesome.
We also got to see him play quarterback once. If you ever have a chance to see that clip, it's hilarious.
That is the funniest clip I have ever seen. Ever. Oh my gosh.
It is. It's great stuff. Before we do our final bold statement from Kyle Smith, I just want you to know that Eric Wintz over on the Viking Age, where I posted last week's podcast, definitely agrees with you, Mr. Kyle West. I would definitely be happy with trading AD after this season and grabbing Ezekiel Elliott in the draft. Elliott is a combination of Percy Harvin and Adrian Peterson.
Ooh, I like that. He agrees, and we're looking forward to next year's draft all in one statement. That's it.
I knew that last week. I knew that your statement would be either poorly or greatly received, and it got a really nice response from readers and listeners, which is fantastic.
I feel like we have smart fans who listen to the show. I really do.
I do. I mean, it's not like the folks over at the Purple Podcast or,
They stole our name. We've never said that on the air, but they totally stole our name. Over on ESPN 1500, yes, they did.
We laugh about it, but it happens.
We were here first at Purple People Podcast.
The nice thing is that no one's going to confuse us with being a Ravens podcast.
You should tweet them over at ESPN 1500 and be like, look, change your name.
It's weird how many podcasts have thrown around our name since we came to be existing, and it was even after we've been through over 120 episodes, people were like, how about the Purple People podcast? No. You know why that sounds good? Because you know it. You've heard it before.
It's like the movie Inception, right?
Crazy times. But yeah, it's always great when we got awesome opinions going on, and I love it when we get interaction over on the Viking Age or Facebook or Twitter. So keep up the good work, guys. And with that, let's have Kyle Smith lay down his bold statement.
You know, it's very hard. I'm going to try every week to give you guys something decent. The first thing my mind always goes to is picking a prediction of a game, a score, a stat line. But I found that that's just, it's boring, it's monotonous. I'm just going to make it generic this week. I don't like the attention we're getting on NFL.com and the attention everywhere else. And you know why? Because it's all good. Because you know what? I'm superstitious. And that's all we need is to have a practice go wrong where one of our star players snaps his ankle or something crazy happens. Now, the fan in me, of course, I'm like, hey, check it out. We're still a team in case you guys didn't know. We're real. We're not the Pats. We're not the Steelers, But I don't know. It's really weird. Adam touched on this earlier, later last week. It's like it's kind of odd to see all the positive attention, but
it is.
It's nice to see that we're being recognized. I just hope that we live up to the hype because the way it's looking, especially with Adrian coming back, there's going to be a lot of eyes looking our way now rather than turn away. And I hope when all of those eyes that aren't Viking fans, that are writers, that are reporters, anything like that, I hope when their eyes are our way, we live up to the hype and the potential that I believe, and I know all of you believe, that we could be. It's kind of nerve-wracking, though, because now you get the buzz going around. Now you got this, well, I hope you better live up to that expectation. But that's
Sure,
all I
have you
got.
ever had one of those friends that kept telling you, oh, there's this new show, you gotta check it out, it's fantastic, you're gonna absolutely love it. And you're like, I don't know, I don't know if I'm gonna check it out, it doesn't look like it's for me. So a couple days later, another friend's like, dude, this show, it's fantastic, you gotta check it out. And then that other friend's still like, hey, have you checked it out yet? And you're like, okay, fine, I'll check it out. And then you watch the show and you're just like, wow, this is exactly what I thought it would be, I don't like this at all.
This is why I have never watched Game of Thrones.
I am really hoping that that isn't how the Vikings season is going to go this year, because I'm hearing so many good, positive things. And if it ends up swirling the toilet again this year, like it has after several of the Vikings' good seasons, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to take it.
I want to knock our own team, but I mean, historically, it has kind of been when the Vikings are always expected to do really good things, they don't. You know what I mean?
But hey, the whole Triple Crown thing means that the Vikings are going to the playoffs and maybe the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Have you read that? The last time the Vikings were in the Super Bowl was the year after the last Triple Crown winner or something like that?
The Triple Crown winner, I don't know. It's the horse racing stuff. Shout out to American Pharoah making history this weekend. But yeah, it's
Will Ferrell?
The last time.
No.
But yes, the last time that happened was when the Vikings went to the Super Bowl. So now it's been buzzed around. Hey man, it's about time you guys go back, isn't it, right? Yeah, it's been overdue for a little over 40 years. Just waiting patiently. But that's another bold statement for another day.
It is kind of cool to see the Adrian Peterson effect positively on the team, because I think beforehand everyone talked about, oh, the Vikings are a good young team that's on the rise and they have the potential to win some games in 2015. And
right.
Then you throw Adrian back onto it, and now the major media is going, Minnesota is a team that can potentially make a splash in 2015. And
it's like we got I hate to say it over one player, but it's like since he got introduced back in the team and, at least on the surface, everything appears to be all good. It's like we got our respect back.
We got our mojo back. We did
a little bit. We got the
Adrian Peterson adds a lot of validity to this team. I mean, he's a former NFL MVP. Mm-hmm. Rushing leader, almost broke the rushing record. This is a guy that he is an absolute game changer. And when you look past that incident and a lot of the problems that fans had going through, sure, they might not have forgotten, but they seem to have forgiven for the most part. And media is willing to take a look at what this team can do with an established veteran like him in the place that knows what it takes to be successful. And remember, it wasn't that long ago that a team led by Adrian Peterson and Christian Ponder were taking the playoffs and absolutely just having a chance. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that long ago.
You guys see the quote by Jim Schwartz about Adrian Peterson?
No.
I read the title, but I didn't read the article. What did it say?
He was asked about defending Adrian Peterson, and he goes, you can stack the box with 8 men, and you will not stop Adrian Peterson. That's essentially what he said about him.
And you stack that box with 8 players, and you got Mike Wallace running free.
Yeah, exactly. So he totally, I get why people are hyped about us.
It's that combination of the veteran leadership, the past experience, along with this absolutely young team growing and developing. That's so exciting.
Teddy time.
I thought we were going to be able to make it through almost a whole show without mentioning Teddy, but we can't help it. We love the guy.
We love Teddy. We love us some Teddy.
Hey, I believe.
On that note, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Remember, head on over to the Facebook page to talk to me and Mr. Smith. Head on over to @PurplePeoplePod on Twitter. Kyle West is there to talk to you and handle all your Vikings needs. Mm-hmm. You can check out my rating over on the Viking Age. And in the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.